Hey guys, are you new to knitting? Have you learned how to knit and purl and now you're looking for your very first project? Well, in today's video, I have the perfect idea for you. Today we're going to be making a beginner-friendly headband that you can finish in a single afternoon and customize any way you like, so that wherever you are on your knitting journey, you can build that confidence and create a design that perfectly suits you. I'm Steph, this is Steph's Fixation Station. Let's knit. So the idea for this headband is that you can work with whatever material you have on hand, whatever needles and whatever yarn you've got lying around. Today I'm using this chunky velour yarn and 6mm needles. You'll also need a pair of scissors and a tapestry needle for sewing the ends together. That's it, no special equipment required, and the best part is the whole project is literally just a simple rectangle. So if you can knit and purl, you can create this headband. Now the first thing we're going to do is cast on, and if you've ever had trouble casting on in the past, this project is perfect because at the end of the headband we'll knit both sides together, so all that mess will be covered up. So I'm just going to create a slip knot and do a few cast on stitches, and you can use whatever cast on method you like. I'm just going to do the knitted cast on for this project. And I'm going to knit about, I reckon 8 stitches. You can really eyeball this. I'm using straight needles in this tutorial, but you can use whatever you have on hand. And there you go, there's my cast on. So now that we've cast on our 8 stitches, our next job is to knit back and forth across these 8 stitches until we reach the desired length of our project. Now to work out how long that actually has to be, you'll have to measure the size of your head. So I've got my trusty tape measure here, and I'm just going to measure the circumference of my head of where I want the headband to sit. So this is normally where I like my headbands to be. So I'm just going to hold that tight and see where that lands. And that's come to just about 58 centimeters. So I know that I need the length of my work to be about 58 centimeters. Now for me, because there is a little bit of stretch in my yarn, I know that this is going to pull a little bit, so I'm going to do it a little bit under, probably about 56 centimeters, so that when I put the headband on, it stretches perfectly. So I'm aiming for about that 56 mark. So now that we've cast on our 8 stitches and we know how long our work has to be, this is the creative part. So you can do absolutely any stitch that you want to do, stocking stitch, garter stitch, seed stitch, any of those stitches you've been looking to try out. This is the perfect project for that. But stick with me and I'll show you a beginner-friendly tip of how you can keep your edges straight, even when you're not great at keeping your tension. For this headband, I'm going to do a pretty simple seed stitch. So that's just knits and purls. So if you want to make the exact same headband as me, you'll just have to follow along with this tutorial. But no matter what pattern you're doing, I absolutely recommend this one tip to keep your edges straight. And that is to slip the first stitch on every single row. So I'm just going to slip it knitwise. So I'm just going to do a simple seed stitch. I believe this is also called Irish moss, but it's a really good beginner-friendly stitch because it's just knitting and purling. I'm going to go all the way to the end. Okay, so as you can see, we've just finished our first row. We slipped that first stitch, so we've done slip, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So it's basically a 1 rib repeat, except that we've slipped the first stitch. So we're going to turn our work over and we're going to do exactly the same on the back. So we're going to slip the first stitch and then purl the knits and knit the purls in order to get our seed stitch. So you can see this last stitch was a knit stitch, so we're going to slip the first stitch, purl wide. And there we go, that's row 2. So flip it over and do the same. We're going to knit the purls and purl the knits, always slipping the first stitch. And we're not very far along, so I've only been working at this for about 10 minutes, and you can see how much progress we've made already, and you can see how beautifully straight those edges are. which is why I always recommend that slipping the first stitch for beginners, because it just helps keep that raw edge looking beautiful. And you can also see the little seed pattern starting to pop out now as well. Looking great. So I'll meet you back when I've close to the end. So we're starting to get to the right amount of length. I'm just going to do a quick measure and see where we're at. You can see we're just at about 55 right now. And I think I said 56 at the beginning of the video. So we're nearly there. But you can see how beautifully straight those edges are. Just slipping that first stitch. It really does, when you have to have a raw edge on display. So a raw edge is one where you aren't sewing it together with other bits of material. It really does help to create that really clean, smooth edge. All right, so I've just measured again and we're at the 56 centimeters. So the next thing we're going to do is cast off our work so that we end up with a rectangle. The easiest way to do this is just to knit 2, and then using your left hand needle, you're going to go under the first stitch and pull it over the top of that second stitch, and that is casting off. You're then going to knit the next stitch and do the same again. So all we're going to do now is just grab our scissors, cut the yarn about 3 or 4 inches up, and make that loop on your needle a little bit big. So you want to make it nice and big so that you can get the end of that work that you just popped through the work and give it a tug. And there you go. You've bound off the end of your headband. The next step of this project is going to be to tie the 2 ends together. So the way you're going to do that is, you can see the stitches you've just made. We're going to weave through those stitches on the end of the work with the stitches on the beginning of the work. And it doesn't matter if you don't do this perfectly, but the neater you do it, the neater your headband will look. So you're going to take some of that yarn that we just used. I've cut off probably about a meter of yarn. It's way too much for what I need, but I just wanted to make sure I had enough. I'm going to thread on the yarn onto my tapestry needle, giving a nice tail there. And then I'm going to bring the 2 ends together. And you can see the beauty of this is that the material is reversible, so it doesn't matter which way you do this, as long as you're making a flat rectangle and bringing it together. That's what you want to be doing. So I'm going to go through that first V and then through one of the loops on the second bit of work. I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to come back over to the first side, stick my needle through and into the other side of the work. I'll just use my finger to make sure that that's happening properly. And then I'm going to weave in these loose ends here, and I'll meet you back at the finish. And I'm just going to keep doing that the whole way along. And that's it, you guys. The headband is all done. It's come together. I'm so proud of the way this turned out. I really like the seed stitch, the way that's come out on the pattern. And you can see we've just bound the back of our headband together with some simple knitting stitch. It looks nice and clean and neat. And my favorite part is that you can see each of the raw edges on the headbands is nice and straight, so that when you wear it, it's going to look really professional. So all up, I think the project took me from start to finish about 2 hours to complete. And that's why I think it's so good for beginners, because it's something that you can do in an afternoon and really build that confidence and all those different skills. Obviously, everything you're doing in this, from binding on to knitting a pattern to casting off and even sewing different pieces together, they're all the basic fundamental skills of knitting, and you get them all done here. And I liked it so much that I actually knit 2. So this is my other headband. So I'll bring it up close to the camera and I might insert a shot. But basically for this one, I did 1 knit. I went knit, purl, 4 knits, purl, and then another knit. And that's created this beautiful pattern here. So now for the grand reveal. Okay, so you'll have to tell me down in the comments below which one's your favorite, which do you prefer, the white one or the purple one, and how would you make this your own? There's so many different ways you can go with this pattern. There's so many different stitches you can use and so many different colors of yarn that you can do. For me personally, I like this thick style of band that goes across the ears because during the winter when I'm running, I like to put headbands like this over the top of my hat to keep my ears warm so that they don't get frozen when I'm out for a long run. And that's why I love these ones, but I'd love to see yours. Post them in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you want to see more beginner-friendly tutorials like this or want to see me continue knitting my first jumper, head on over to my channel, Steph's Fixation Station. Give me a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you there. Thanks for watching.